Hey you guys, it's Clark from Super Collector Clark. How you guys doing? In this video, I am going to do a top 10 Blu-ray movies that I think have the best 3D. Now, I'm only talking about the image quality, although most of the movies in here are the movies that I like. Some of them maybe not so much, but I might be biased depending on the content. And for your information, I am watching all of my movies on a 55-inch LG OLED 2016 model C6. Okay, so coming in at number 10 is Jurassic Park, the very first one. Now this is a Jurassic Park collection set, so it comes with all the Jurassic Park, Jurassic World movies, not all of them, up to Jurassic World, which also comes in 3D. But on the second page, it has the Jurassic Park 3D Blu-ray. It is told that Steven Spielberg watched Titanic that was converted in 3D by James Cameron, and he was so amazed by that technology, and he really enjoyed it. He decided to convert this movie into 3D. So the 3D in this movie is extremely well done, and even with 3D, it looks very natural. Of course, some scenes do look, you know, a little off at times, but maybe it's just my TV and the setup. But overall, it's really amazing. It gives a great amount of depth. And if you're one of those who love pop-out scenes towards the end, where, you know, the main characters are, you know, running away from the velociraptor and they fall down the ceiling, you know, where Lex kind of, you know, falls down, and the velociraptor kind of jumps at you from the floor up to the camera, and that scene is really great. Okay, next up is you might be kind of surprised by this, but this is the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and this is the one by Michael Bay. I don't think he directed it, but this is the second installment of the newer Ninja Turtle reboot, and I grew up with the original, you know, Ninja Turtles, and when I saw the trailers for these new ones, the reboot, I was just shocked at how weird they looked. But when I saw the movie, it just kind of grew on me by means of 3D. I think it had a better 3D than the first one. And these movies are so action-packed with super camera, what do you call it, camera shake? The Michael Bay shots, you know, where the camera is never on a tripod, you know, it's constantly moving. And, you know, when you're watching a 3D movie, you kind of want to avoid that because it gets you, you know, it gets you seasick, definitely. And although this one gives me some motion sickness, the 3D is really well done. A lot of pop-outs, a lot of depth, and the sound is this Dolby Atmos? Yeah, so this is one of the rare movies. Most 3Ds have only like 5.1 DTS master audio, but the Ninja Turtle series, they have Atmos. Now, coming in at number 9, here is another controversial film. I know a lot of people hated it, but this movie was one of the first earlier titles that came out in 4K, so this was like my first disc to purchase to see what it's really all about. And I was totally blown away by how bright the highlights were and how black the dark scenes were and everything, and the details. I don't think this is a 4K digital intermediate, but still, the Sony titles are just amazing. Now the 3D, what's great about this one is that it has a bunch of frame breaks. And if you're not familiar with what frame breaks are, is that, you know how movies, they have black bars on the top and the bottom? Not all movies do. Some movies are 16:9 full screen aspect ratio. Well, maybe not completely full, but you know, some movies are full. Recent movie, like Marvel movies, are kind of full 16:9, but close to 16:9. The benefit of that is that with 3D, with this film, is that when they shoot these phantom, whatever, you know, these beams, when they shoot them out, ignores this black bar, and it just, the image goes over that. So you'll see the lasers, you know, just go all over the place, and it just, you know, gives, you know, like I said, another dimension of 3D. And not only that, the overall transfer is very well done. Like the first establishing shot of the mansion, like when it's like boom, it's just, you see a house of the mansion, you know, it's just standing there, but it's still so, the depth you see in it is so good that like the first shot right off the bat is amazing too. And coming at number 7 is Rogue One. I would say most people wouldn't choose this as their favorite top 10 3D because it's very subtle. You don't see you know, things flying at you or anything, but it's that subtleness and the depth part that I really like. Let's say this is a TV panel, and when you watch a movie in 3D, the movie doesn't happen here. It happens in the back. You know, they use a term, looking through the window. You know, it's like you see the film out in the back here. So it's like there's so much depth. So there's some things going here, there's some things going there, there's some things going there. The best 3D, I think, is the ones that you kind of forget that it's 3D. You know, a lot of people will say that, you know, it doesn't, they can't really tell the difference between a 2D and a 3D movie. But I think converted 3D titles don't suffer from that, and that's why some people will say, you know, it doesn't really feel different from a 2D film. But in reality, I think it's so natural, and you get sucked into the movie, and you know, that's a good thing. And you know, I am kind of biased maybe on this movie because I like it so much. But the 3D, I definitely like watching this movie in 3D. Alright, so next up, coming in at number 6, Jack the Giant Slayer. Is that what it's called? Yeah, Jack the Giant Slayer. And I watched this first in 2D when it first came out. I wasn't expecting much from it, but this is a great film. This is a fantastic film. The whole film was shot in native 3D camera. That's at least that's what I heard. 2 cameras, you know, side by side to mimic a human eye. So if you're looking for a great storyline with great acting, with great music, and with great 3D, this is something that you would want to watch, definitely. This is a fantastic movie. Alright, so coming in at number 5 is the Minions. Now this is a Japanese version again. It has the 3 titles: Despicable Me, the first one, Despicable Me 2, and the Minions. And I also have the Despicable Me 3. Usually, in my opinion, I think movies that are done in CGI animation usually has great 3D. And I think it's because it's already in CGI that really helps them convert it into 3D. Footage that's shot live, you know, they kind of have to render out, you know, using CG afterwards to get, you know, which part to kind of stick out and which part to not stick out, you know, and whatnot. But, you know, movies that are made in CG from the beginning, you know, I believe they don't have to do that. So I think that's why they have the advantage. And also the color palette, the colors they use fits 3D format very well. And this is like the only film I can actually say that has had me actually almost duck because it was gonna actually strike me. I think the first movie has the best 3D. There's a scene where Guru is on his spaceship and it kind of lands on Earth, and it kind of slides down and kind of comes, you know, right into the face of the screen, and it has a really pointy tip. And that tip, you know, it goes way into your face. It like sticks out of the screen, and that moment was awesome. And a lot of the scenes in the end credits has scenes that are made for 3D. Okay, so coming in at number 4 is this one right here in the center. It's the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. Now, this franchise, the new reboot franchise, was really amazing. This film also was shot in native 3D, just like Jack the Giant Slayer. So right off the bat, you can tell a difference. It's very natural. The depth is just beyond normal. And yeah, like I said, the movie itself is like way, like it's you see it just behind the TV, you know, and I have a, you know, wall behind the TV, but it looks, you know, it's even passing that TV wall behind it. And the movies with, you know, things popping out in your face are the ones that kind of distract me from the storyline sometimes, unless it's utilized really well into the storyline. But this was just amazing. Now this set is a really great set. It has Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children in Life of Pi. It's like a 3 disc set. It also includes the 2D version, and it costs less than $30. Some honorable mentions. I know Life of Pi in 3D. I haven't actually seen that yet. So I know that one's really good. But Miss Peregrine, I wasn't expecting this movie to be any good, but I actually enjoyed it. So these two fit in the honorable mentions category of not only the film itself, but the 3D in Miss Peregrine was a bit forced, in my opinion. Some of the shots kind of gave me eye fatigue. That's what I mean by forced. Now we're in the top 3 movies. Blade Runner 2049 or 2049. Blade Runner 2049. A lot of people said the 4K was much better. and it also has a 2D. The reason I chose this to be number 3 on my list is that the 4K definitely is great visually. The cinematography in this movie is good. I don't think it's that good to a point where I'm shocked, because I've already, the original Blade Runner, already had that vibe, and I know achieving that now is very hard, but I don't know, there was some scenes that felt kind of out of place to me. It didn't feel like Blade Runner. That's just my opinion. By means of cinematography, like these are just nitpicking, but I don't know, some of the camera angles, it could have been better. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just, yeah. Well, anyhow, so the 3D in this. Now, I watched this in 4K first, once, because of how much appraisal it's gotten, and I loved it. The audio soundtrack was great, and then I went right ahead and watched it in 3D, like right afterwards. So after watching about 2.5 or 3 hours full of movie, I watched the 3D version. And to my surprise, I actually like the 3D version better. It doesn't have like pop out scenes, but it has a lot of depth, and they are subtle, but it adds so much layers of dimension that it adds to the story, it adds to the cinematography. So the scenes that kind of bugged me watching in 4K, like the camera angles I was talking about, it didn't really bother me that much when I was watching it in 3D. Maybe that kind of hit it. I highly recommend watching this in 3D, but the only downside is that unless you have the US version, the soundtrack on it is a Dolby Digital 5.1, so it's not a DTS 5.1, which will make a difference. And coming in at number 2 is Prometheus. Now, this is another controversial film, but I loved it. I went nuts when I saw this. Okay, so talking about 3D on this one. This one is shot in native 3D. So again, with 2 cameras side by side. So it's not a post conversion. So it's very natural looking 3D. Okay, so again, I am the type of person that prefers movies that have great depth, that adds to the storyline. The first scene, the very first establishing shot where you see this kind of monotone river, kind of flowing. You see this water and you see this great landscape, and it has so much layers upon layers upon layers of depth, and that are so natural. It just sucks you right in from the beginning, and that is how Ridley Scott shoots, and he knows how to shoot. So this just was amazing. I still love this. I watched this just to enjoy the 3D, and and like the first part where the main character, there was a scene where she kind of pushes a rock. The screen is all blacked out, but she like pushes the rock from behind this the camera or towards the screen, and it opens up where she kind of looks in, and the 3D on that part is amazing. If you've seen it, I think you know what I'm talking about. But those subtle scenes, those things really adds to the moment, and I just love those. I know a lot of people might not agree with me on this being number 2 on the list, but for me this is just an amazing film. Now finally to number 1. Not my favorite film or anything. I mean, I love the film, but this is a 3D must film. To be honest, I haven't seen the 4K, which I heard is also really good, but I can kind of imagine what it's gonna look like seeing all the other films in 4K. But I bought the 3D version without seeing it in the theaters, and oh man, this was not natively shot. I mean, most of the scenes are CGI, so I think that's one reason again for this movie having good 3D. The car race scene is amazing. That had so much action and camera movement and everything, but still it didn't give me eye fatigue. That is very hard to do, I think. And definitely the Shining scene. The Shining is probably my number 1 favorite movie, and I didn't watch any of the trailers. Well, maybe I saw like one, but I wasn't expecting The Shining to be in this film. And when I saw Overlook Hotel, I almost pissed my pants, literally. And watching it in 3D, the room has so much space and depth. I watched it in 2D later to see how it kind of looked without the 3D. To be honest, the 3D added so much more depth and reality to that scene that when I watched it in 2D, at first when I watched it in 3D, I thought they used like the actual footage from the movie Shining, and that's what I thought. I mean, the whole time. But when I watched it in 2D, I could tell that it was CG rendered. So that's how much different the 3D was. I mean, how much better the 3D was. Steven Spielberg is just amazing at camera work and the cinematography, and making a movie in CGI. Not that I'm a director or anything, and having the ability to move the camera any way you want. It may sound like you have better freedom in making movies, but if you have unlimited ways of camera, I think, in my opinion, it makes it harder, because if you have certain restrictions, you kind of have to work around that. But if you don't have that, it's basically anything's possible, and you really have to get it right to really sell that shot. And I think Steven Spielberg doing Adventures of Tintin, and maybe he worked with Robert Zemeckis, Back to the Future, obviously. He did Beowulf, and yeah, so Steven Spielberg has been kind of building up his technique with working with CGI for a while, and he has finally kind of nailed it with this one. It's just amazing. And the soundtrack is although the 3D doesn't have the Atmos track, very well mixed. All the 10 films that I mentioned have great 3D, and I have a lot more, but if I had to choose 10 out of the ones that I own, these are the ones. Now I have a lot more 3Ds that I haven't watched yet on my system, so this will probably change, so I may do another one in the future, so look out for that. If you have any questions about 3D, I have some videos on my Dali speaker setup, my home theater setup. Definitely check those videos out. And again, thanks for watching, and I will see you on my next video.